Happy October! It is the 1st of October today, so I have decided to truly welcome spooky season into my heart by reading books that are scary for 4 to 8 hours. This is either a super smart idea or a super stupid idea, and we're going to find out together which one of those it is. I have a massive, if you've watched my TBR video, it is ridiculous. I'm not getting through them all, but I'm gonna try my best. My TBR is massive. So, smart person would say that if I was going to be reading horror books for 48 hours, I would start with the books on my TBR. Yeah? I'm not doing that though. No. Because what has happened is when I was planning this video, I got the scary books from my TBR and then realised I had put some horror books to the side for October. They're not on my TBR. So I'm going to start with one of those because I really would like to manage to read those too. So I'm going to start with a book that's not on my TBR, and then I'm going to go back to my TBR. Well, it'll be great. It'll be fine. So first book is going to be Jawbone by Mónica Ojeda. This is a translated horror novel. It is translated from Spanish as the author is from Ecuador. This is a book I have not seen a lot of people talk about, and I don't remember when I got it. I got it secondhand. It has a sticker on it, but I don't remember when I have it. Where did it come from? And also, I was convinced that this was a lady with a hat. It's not. This book, I only know what I know from the blurb because I didn't want to go and get spoilers. This book has two friends, Fernanda and Annalise, who are just super best friends, basically sisters. Something happens and they have a falling out. Something else happens and Fernanda finds herself held hostage by her teacher in a deserted cabin. She doesn't know what happened, how she got there. Their teacher is also not okay. She is basically imitating her deceased mother and her sanity is deteriorating. So I'm really intrigued to find out what happens between Fernanda and Annalise, and is she going to be okay? This is a horror book and I need to remind myself that sometimes in horror there are no happy endings. So I'm cautious going into this because I don't read a lot of scary books. Maybe I do. I don't think I do. I have been reading more horror recently, so I am very excited to try something different, and I don't know. Let's see how I get on with this. I've got some housework to do first, and then I'm gonna read this. It's not too big. It's just over 300 pages, so I'm very confident I will get it read today, and then I will let you know how I get on with it. I have had a very, very productive day, and it's only like dinner time. I have done all of the chores that I needed to do today. I've done changed the bed, done laundry, not put laundry away, but that'll be happening. Done the dishes. I have made apple puree sort of thing. I basically slow cook apples with some really nice spices, and then I put that on my porridge during the week. So that is downstairs, just finishing off, and I have finished reading Jawbone. And have any of you read this book? Because what did I just read? This is a book that I think I'm gonna have to really maybe take a step away from before I write my review, because I don't know if I liked it or if I hated it. It's one of the two. This will either be like 1 or 2 stars or 4 or 5. I don't know. But this book focused on Fernanda and Annalise, who were best friends, basically thought of each other as sisters, and they had this really intense relationship with each other, and their group of friends. I found their relationship reminded me a little bit of Brutes in that it was obsessive, controlling, manipulative, and quite dangerous. And I found that to be quite terrifying to read about, because these were teenagers and they were just in such a sort of unhealthy friendship. They had found themselves this abandoned house that basically turned into their clubhouse, and they were convinced that there was a deity that they had to praise from within that house, a deity of their own making, and they would dare each other to do challenges that were progressively more and more violent, just violent. They no, they didn't treat each other with kindness and respect, none of that. There was, you know, horrible acts. It was really quite disturbing to read. I don't read a lot of, I don't even know if you could describe this as body horror, but it was violent, it was visceral, and I don't tend to read a lot of books like that. So this is one of the very few books that I've read that sort of touch on that element of horror, which I don't, you know, not an expert at all. And I don't know if I will be reading more books that sort of focus on that, because I felt a bit queasy. But I really liked the way this book was laid out. There were 3 main types of chapter in this book. There were chapters that focused on the friendship between Fernanda and Annalise, also referred to as Anne, and it let you see that their relationship was very manipulative and quite dangerous. And there were chapters that were basically WhatsApp messages between the 2 friends, which sort of showed how normalized their friendship had become. But with the previous chapters, you sort of could see that they felt like there was nothing out of the ordinary there, but really there was. And the 3rd type of chapter was from the point of view of Miss Clara, who was their languages teacher. And oh no, she needs help. She's not okay at all. That woman was, oh no, terrifying. She had kidnapped Fernanda, as we knew from the blurb, but the reason behind her kidnapping her was just, you could just tell how mentally unsound she was, because she had this seed planted that made no sense. Like, if you were, you know, in a good place and somebody said that to you, you would ask questions, you'd be doubtful, but Miss Clara was not that person. She just needed somebody to give her something. She ran with it, and just, Fernanda was in a very dangerous place. She was handcuffed in a basement, and it was horrible to read about her in that basement. And it was just the threat of knowing something was coming, that Fernanda was not gonna, you know, she was not okay, and she was in danger, and I was just so tense waiting to find out what was gonna happen to her. I really found this to be so utterly thought-provoking. It really focused on what it meant to be a woman, and all of the various things that women go through as they're growing up, have their physical changes, as well as a lot of focus on motherhood, which was really interesting, because none of the main characters were mothers. They were all daughters, but none of them were mothers. So it was really interesting to read about what sort of motherhood meant from their point of views. I found this book really focused on the sort of manipulation that can happen within friendships, and it was deeply disturbing to read, and extremely thought-provoking. And I don't know if I'm going to say this was a triumph or not, but I do know that this was a very interesting first read of October. I feel October is the perfect month to have read this book, because it scared me, and It scared me because there was nothing paranormal in it. And I feel like sometimes the most terrifying books for me can discuss things that could actually happen in real life, when you can't trust the people who are supposed to protect you, when you can't trust your own mind. I find that really, really disturbing to read about, perhaps more so than things that are probably more traditionally horror. This book was definitely a scary book, very creepy, very like, don't try and eat your breakfast while reading this, because it might make you feel a little poorly. But it was very much a book I am glad I've read, and I really need more people to read this so we can talk about it. I don't know if I liked it. I don't know. But I know that I still have a decent amount of time left today to read a little bit more. Like I said, we're getting ready for dinner. We are having a Chinese takeaway because why not? And we are going to watch Strictly because, again, why not? It is the results show tonight and I'm extremely excited. I don't know if anybody else cares about Strictly Come Dancing, but I just like watching the people dance. I'm going to read at least one other whole book today. I'm going to read Carmilla by Sheridan. Fanu. This is a very short book, but I'm going to be watching some TV, having some relaxing time tonight. So this is a nice achievable read for the rest of the day because I spent more time tidying up than I had expected to be, or at least planned to. This is one of my favourite classics. It is about a vampire called Carmilla. She is a young, beautiful woman who is taken in by a young, very lonely woman, and people start to be killed or die in mysterious ways that look a little bit like perhaps a vampire's been involved. I really enjoyed this book. I'm really excited to do my annual reread. I'm fairly certain I'm going to get this done before bedtime. But now I'm going to go order Chinese food. Yay! I have a coffee because I don't know if this is going to take a while. Much has happened since my last update. I also have a purring cat right next to me who is now having a bath. So that's fun. Since last we spoke, I very much did finish reading Carmilla by Sheridan. Fanu. This is one of my favourite classics. It is a gothic classic. It's very short. If you are interested in starting with classics, I would say that this is a really good start because it's so short, but it's also a really exciting story. I love this story. This has been one of my favorite classics since I possibly originally wore an outfit that looked like this. I've accidentally come dressed like me of the 2000s with substantially more grey hair, and yep, we're going with it. It is a story of a very, very lonely girl called Laura who lives in a castle, and she's just desperately lonely. And one day there's an accident with a coach, and a young girl called Carmilla ends up coming to stay with Laura and her father. And there begins just a beautiful friendship, sort of a love between the two women. Whether you view it as a romantic love or a platonic love, it's still love. There's a lot of lines that can be read between. It's just so lovely to see this really lonely girl who had a friend, and then that friend, you know, fell victim to a mysterious illness, and then suddenly there's a mysterious stranger who she just clings to because she needs some companionship. And it's a very, very exciting book. It very much builds on this beautiful relationship, and then all of it happens, all of it goes on, and it's really, really exciting. And I feel like if you want a little vampire story, like an original vampire tale. This one's it. This is a book I read every year and I enjoy it every year, and I enjoyed it this year too. I then went on to read Clown in a Cornfield by Adam Cesare. This is why this vlog, I'm not filming this on day 2 of October. This is much later in the week, because I read this book and I thought I cannot end my vlog on Clown in a Cornfield, because I gave that book 1 star and I feel like that book is lucky to get 1 star. It is not for me. Not for me. It is a young adult book, and I feel like sometimes people like poo-poo young adult books. I'm obviously not a young adult, but I feel like even though this is young adult, it deserves plot. It deserves characters. Just because a book is for a younger audience, it doesn't mean that it needs to be any less well presented, well created than a book that you would put forward for an adult audience. Younger readers deserve just the same level of awesomeness as anybody else. And I'm going to be really short with this book because I don't want to, be overly mean. But this book is about, it's a slasher. It's a horror, and it's set in a small town in somewhere in the US where corn grows. And at a party, a clown starts bumping people off. That is the basic premise. I'm struggling to think of something I did enjoy about the book. I didn't like the characters. I felt like it was very obvious from 20% into the book what was going to happen and who was going to be responsible for it. And I feel if that section had been taken out, the book might have been a bit better, because there could have been a moment of, ooh, who's this? Who's doing this? But because it was there, I knew who it was. I knew why they were doing it. Did I agree with the reasons? No. Did I hate everyone in the book? Yes. So I spent 99p on the book, and I don't think I had 99 pence worth of fun. So I thought, I cannot end my reading vlog on a 1-star book. No, where's the joy in that? Where's the fun? It's not in the spirit of Halloween, of reading scary books. So I had a look at my TBR, because playing it smart, I went, what do I need to read? And I picked the sort of horror book that I had on my TBR that excited me the most, because I thought, look, I'm coming from a 1-star read that's threatening to throw me in to a reading slump. I need to climb out. And I went with I Feed Her to the Beast and the Beast Is Me by Jamison, Shea. And this book is one of the best books I have read this year. It was utterly fantastic and has a gorgeous yet creepy cover. I love this book. This book is set in Paris. This book surrounds a ballerina who is objectively the best ballerina in her class. She is top of the class. She is fantastic. But she is from a working class background, and she is a black dancer. And she is facing racism, classism, elitism, and just generally people being arsey. She wants to succeed. She wants to succeed in something that she is fantastic at. But because of her race, because of her background, people are not looking at her. They're not enjoying her dance the same way that they would had she been what is described as a more classic aesthetic, I suppose. So she makes a deal. She makes a bargain with a demon to get what she wants, her dream. And the demon obviously kind of wants some sort of payback. And she kind of finds herself in this pact where she's not too sure, is it worth basically selling my soul to get my dream when the people they don't respect me without it? Like without this deal. And I thought this book was absolutely spectacular. I love coming of age books, especially books in Paris. It's very niche, but it's something that I've always enjoyed. And I love I love anything with ballet. I did ballet as a child. I had no talent or skill, but oh, did I try. I am not a dancer at all, but I love anything, any sort of film with ballet in it, I am all over. So the idea of having a story set at a ballet school in Paris, coming of age, I was in. My expectations were, I didn't want them to be high, but they were, and they were met. I loved Laura as a character. She was flawed. The best characters are flawed. People are flawed. And I loved her as a character. She was so driven. She was so passionate. And she was very defensive, but as a sort of support mechanism. Like, she had to be defensive because people were generally being quite awful. And she was so driven, and it was just that passion that it was so lovely to read about somebody who cares and works so hard to achieve something, and it was really quite admirable. She had a best friend. They'd been best friends all throughout their dance career, Coralie, and Coralie was the exact opposite to Laura. She was a legacy dancer. Her mother was a renowned ballerina. She was on the board of directors, so Coralie kind of had a very, very big leg up. Coralie was not as gifted a dancer. She'd been held back a year, and yet sort of felt and acted like she was owed the world, despite being very clear that she perhaps did not deserve the accolades that she so desired. And I really enjoyed the way that their relationship changed, and what I felt was a very realistic way of when one succeeds and the other, who believes that they should also succeed, doesn't. That sort of dynamic changed, and I really thought that it was a very realistic, take away the horror elements, it was a very realistic depiction of what happens when you grow up, and some of us achieve our dreams and some don't. I loved the writing of this book. It was so dark, but it wasn't scary. I don't think I didn't have nightmares. I wasn't scared, but I was tense and I was anxious, and I was really, really intrigued to know what was going to happen, because we met a bunch of other people who had made similar deals to Laura, and good things were not coming. So it was very clear that there was somebody hunting down people who had made such deals with this demon, and I wanted to know who. I wanted to know why. There was also one of my favorite things in a book where there is a somewhat magical world. In the catacombs where they had found this river to make this pact, there was an entryway to this magical world where the people who had made these deals could go. I wanted to know more about that world. I would quite like more of that. It was just a fantastic, thought-provoking book, and I was just gripped, and I cannot think of a better way to have finished this vlog than with reading a book that I think is a new favourite. Just really, I loved reading about an ambitious, strong, young woman just wanting to achieve their dreams and not being afraid to make a deal with a demon to get there. There was a teeny bit of romance as well, which was unexpected but delightful. And yeah, I just had the best time with this book, and it made me just so happy to read this book. And I just didn't know where it was going to go next, and I had the best time. I cannot recommend highly enough this book. It was utterly fantastic, and I will be shocked if this does not make it into my favourites of 2023, because it was spectacular. So I kind of read for a little bit more than 48 hours, but we're going with that because we will not end a vlog on a 1 star. No, it feels wrong. So I read 4 books. 3 were fantastic. 1 we're not going to talk about again. We're not. We're going to forget it existed. So these are the 3 books that I absolutely loved from this vlog. I highly recommend them all, and I had a good time. We'll forget about the book I didn't enjoy. I had a good time. And the cat is having the longest bath ever, so I'm gonna leave him to his privacy. I would like to know if you have read any good horror books recently, any recommendations that you would like to leave. Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!